Hello, writers. Let's take a look at some tools that you can use in your analysis. Example analysis for week 5. We have our quote, a sentence should contain no unnecessary words and a paragraph no unnecessary sentences for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts. William Strunk. Analysis. Strunk argues that when you write, you should only use the words you need. He makes a comparison between sentences and paragraphs on the one hand and drawings and machines on the other hand to show the value of efficiency. In a drawing, you wouldn't have lines scribbling at random. In a machine, no one would want extra parts that serve no purpose. In the same way, sentences shouldn't have words that are only there to sound fancy, and paragraphs shouldn't have sentences that are there only to fill up a word count. The purpose of writing is to convey meaning, so sometimes fulfilling that purpose involves cutting out words as opposed to adding them in. Let's take a look at some of these tools here. Comparison, noun, the act of putting two things next to each other and showing how they are similar. Let's make a comparison between these two objects. They are both round. They both are made to look like apples. They are both shiny. So we put them next to each other and see. Shades of meaning, comparison versus similarity. A similarity has to do with only the things that are the same. If you are showing the similarities of two things, then they're only going to be the same. But a comparison means that you are giving the chance to show that there could be differences as well. In the same way, we've got a transitional phrase here, and it shows an additional example of the same idea. So you've got one list here. In the same way, this other list here. And there is kind of a shade of meaning, though, in the same way versus also. Like you could say this and also this, but in the same way implies a longer list on both sides. Also is kind of a short word and doesn't have a very long transition. But if you have in the same way, I expect you maybe had 2 or 3 sentences on the first side, and then you're going to have another 2 or 3 sentences on the second side. And so it gives you this smoother connection. Next one is convey. It's a verb to carry something from one place to another. So this conveyor belt is carrying these boxes from one end to the other. When you're talking about an argument and communication, you're usually trying to convey an idea, convey meaning, convey some kind of a abstract thing. And but the idea is very similar to the literal meaning of the word, where you're just carrying the idea from one place to another, from one person's mind to another. And convey has the sense of the idea actually gets there. The difference between convey and argue is that when you argue something, I argue that sentences should have no unnecessary words. You're implying that the other person could argue back. You're implying that there's another possible position to take. But if you're conveying something, then it doesn't have that same sense of opposition. I'm just conveying that sentences should have no unnecessary words. And then you don't really expect anyone to disagree with you. Fulfill is a verb to carry out, to satisfy, to bring to completion. So if you're fulfilling things, as you fulfill, you check off a box and you say, yep, fulfilled. Yes, fulfilled. Shades of meaning here. There is a difference, though, between fulfill versus finish. So if I'm finishing something, then I'm just saying, like, I'm done. Like I have reached the end. I stopped doing it. Now I'm doing something else. It doesn't have the same feeling of what quality of work you did on that thing. But if you say I fulfilled my obligation or I fulfilled my purpose, it has the sense of you did it to the extent it was supposed to be done. You did it in a really good way. So that it's not only finished, but awesome. And then last one is as opposed to, it's a transition to show something different for what was just mentioned. So you can see these two people pushing against each other. They are opposed to each other and different. The key is using the phrase to refer to what was just said. I'd say she is a good player as opposed to a great one. And so as opposed to separates good player from great player to show the difference.